And welcome back, everyone. I want you to look at these numbers right here. The U.S. deficit is projected to reach $1.9 trillion this year. The debt could hit $50 trillion a decade from now. The U.S. will spend $900 billion on interest on the national debt, and that's more than what we spend on defense at this point. A lot of numbers here, a lot of debt. Joining us now to discuss and so much more is the Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold. Now, Brandon, you look at those numbers and you shake your head for one thing, but you also wonder what needs to be done right now. All these numbers are coming from the Congressional Budget Office. This is a nonpartisan organization. So what does the White House, what does Congress need to do now when you look at those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, these numbers are absolutely astonishing. There ought to be alarm bells going off in the White House and on Capitol Hill right now, telling them, first of all, just stop making this problem worse. A lot of the reasons why the numbers have gotten so much worse since February, when they've since added $400 billion in extra debt, is because they're making bad policy decisions. They've spent more on student loan forgiveness. Biden has done that unilaterally. They passed a massive emergency supplemental bill to give money to Ukraine and Israel that didn't have any spending offsets whatsoever. So therefore, they need to stop doing what's making this problem so much worse and then take steps to fix it, like creating a fiscal commission and putting all types of spending on the table as we look to get our financial picture in order.
You know, one thing that always comes up is this fight over raising the national debt. You know, Congress suspended the debt limit in 2023, but that will, of course, expire next year. Are we looking at another showdown?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, they kicked the can down the road once again. They pushed the debt ceiling expiration to the beginning of 2025, which is only 6 months away now. It's not that far away. But they wanted, of course, to get to the other side of the election so they didn't have to make tough decisions right before an election. Well, guess what? They need to start talking about those tough decisions now. I know it might not be politically popular, but neither is raising taxes to a massive extent in order to cover this deficit. Neither is making massive reductions in Social Security benefits or Medicare benefits, because those programs are going bankrupt. And Congress has its head buried in the sand by and large.
One thing that is happening right now, House Republicans are pushing to pass 12 spending bills before the start of the August recess. Is it likely that Congress can get any of these bills passed? And what is the most important piece of legislation, first up, though, when you look at this packet of bills?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to get them done before the election, but the House is doing the exact right thing here. They're setting a blueprint for spending and also building in some spending reductions into these plans. And that is absolutely critical now. They need to change the narrative in Washington, and I think that's what these bills do. In terms of the most important one, the financial services bill, that contains funding for the IRS, which has been absolutely off the rails in going after individuals and requesting $100 billion in extra funds to ramp up its enforcement activities, building a tax prep service without the authority given to it by Congress. It needs to be reined in, and that's exactly what this legislation would do, in addition to turning the tide and starting to reduce overall spending in the federal budget.
And quickly, let's talk about some of these tax code. Vast portions of the tax code are set to expire. The impact on families, the impact on individuals.
Yeah, I mean, the tax code is going to change dramatically at the end of next year if we don't do anything about it, because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, a lot of those portions that benefit families and small businesses will be gone. So if you think about a single worker making $60,000, barely keeping her head above water in this tough economy, her taxes are scheduled to go up by about $1,800 at the end of 2025. Congress needs to act. We're getting mixed messages from the president on this, but we need to act. We need to do so in a fiscally responsible manner, but we need to make sure people aren't facing enormous tax increases at a time when the cost of living has risen dramatically due to inflation.
All right, Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayer Union, Brandon Arnold, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Angela.
Here's the live dust this morning.